Okay, good morning. We have Prashant and Samindra as well. So, as we discussed last week, so we try to, start past papers today. So, what I thought was we start with as per the syllabus, we are initially with the SME and SME lending sources of funding and and then move to microfinancing. So I have selected some questions which relevant to SME area. I haven't gone through. I actually from the 2015-16 area. So where I tried to limit to 2019 and onwards. So but you can further select question relevant to these areas, and you can attempt the question as and when you think appropriate, right? So the first question is 2019 March. That's about SME development. Part one say SME contribution to economy. Part two is totally about SME framework, which is bit new to us, which actually not in the syllabus, which came outside from the syllabus. And then challenges SME financing, and what are the sources of financing for SME, right? So the rest of the three questions has been basically we have discussed to some extent. Here that we try to add some value to that because more or less there's a practical perspective to that. So take 2-3 minutes among you, and try to understand the question, right? And then we will together we will discuss the answers. See whether you can at least take part one and jot down some of your answers, what sort of possible answers, and then we will discuss together. Can we think about the part one? How SMEs can contribute? What are the possible, the contributions, solutions, answers? It's a common answer, but it's good that if you can set 3 or 4 points which has been identified, and then have your answer. Any thoughts from you? Udita, Rashini, what are the possible areas?
Reducing unemployment.
Yes, the very good answer. So the one area that we can think about, the SMEs can contribute, support the unemployment or employment creation. So I'll show the answers later. So we will have what are the areas that we can provide the answer, right? So that's about one. The other one, economic growth, economic development area. So that will basically we can talk about the contribution towards the GDP. Generally we talk about more than 50% contribution is coming from SME. So the second area could be contribution towards economy. That could be economic development, economic growth, or GDP, right? Then what could be another possible area? Basically, SMEs are to what? Promote export, right? So they can promote export. They can produce goods which can be used to import substitutions. They can earn foreign exchange, which a country needs the most. So there's another area. So basically, export, import, and foreign exchange is another area that we can think about. 3 points. Then what are the another points? What about like going out of, say, the center? Like if you take major companies, they might locate in like maybe the Colombo, or like in a western province, but because based on the the infrastructure requirements, they are not willing to go to outstations, right, outside, right? So hence they prefer to locate or maybe limit their activities in a popular sort of developed areas. But SMEs are not like that. So scatter around Sri Lanka, scatter around the country, which can support regional development, regional presence, right? So even Monoragal, you can find SME, even Vaunia, you can find SME. So again, the regional development, and then it can be expected through SME is another one. Another very good point. We have actually now discussed 4. Any other point you can think about? What about using the raw materials, which are not very much dependent on imports, right? So could be local raw material, local resources, right? Local skills of labor kind of thing. When you say SME, sometimes they don't want a kind of, detail, like very sophisticated technology. Maybe the manpower, like, local labor could be useful. Local raw material could be useful, right? So because they are like, adding value to the product or services step by step. So that is another area that you can think about, right? So these are some of the, the 4 or 5 areas that, one can think about. So I'll show the answers. So then thereafter you can think about more sort of formal one. Based on this, that, you can have your answer developed right here. These are sort of answers that we can give. One could be GDP contribution. Number 2 could be employment. Number 3 could be import, export, like import substitution, export promotion, earning foreign exchange. Number 4 could be regional development. Number 5 could be usage of local raw material, maybe local labor, right? Or number 5, there are some more, like, number 4 could be local raw material. Number 5 could be product innovation, process innovation, right? Those are things, because they're small, but they could, do different things. Then they can also could be inputs to the bigger companies, because now the bigger companies want some value added or maybe half completed inputs, right? What they could do is they can, go for SMEs and get the things done. That's another way of, completing or maybe addressing the value chain in a kind of a economy, right? So these are, very good answers, right? So whenever it comes, that you can have at least 4 or 5 answers which you can prepared and go, right? Because now no harm, because this could be, the same question that they can give us, right? Maybe differently they can articulate it, but the question may not be a difficult one or different one, right? Only thing is the answers could be more or less like, what are the SME contribution? So what's the importance of SME? Why do you think that SMEs are important in a growing economy? This could be the kind of a question, but the answer lies on these sort of things that we discussed. Any questions on this? I can see, there's a big reduction of our students. Like, we generally have more than 13, 14. Today we only have 5, 6, right? So I don't know why, but as I was, telling you on the other day, this is very critical area, right? So the students might think about, the theory, revision and all that will be good, but how to answer questions is so much important, right? When you are having that sort of probably you might understand also, like, you have a lot of things learned, but when it comes to the question, the examiner is asking a different version, but you have to answer in a way that you can get maximum marks. Right? Somebody can, make 2, 3 points and they can expand it to 5, 6 points, but probably you might not get the marks, because the suggested answers would say, like, you at least you need to cover these areas, right? If you are repeating something, probably we might not be able to give it, right? So I am like suggesting here is like, always have a kind of answer plan for your question. Here, as I was telling you, 3 way of asking question, but answer is same. But when you are answering, it's important to, have 4 or 5 different areas. Here, GDP, employment or unemployment, foreign exchange, import substitution, export promotion, and then local raw material usage, or maybe regional development, right? Innovation. These are the 6 areas that we have spoken of. Then you need to, write like one line statement on these areas. So it's quite different each other. So you can get a maximum points out of that. Right. Any questions on this answer? Is it clear? Is it clear? Is it difficult or in a position to answer it? Yeah, Prishanti, any question?
Sir, can we write it as a point form?
Yes, we need to. I think we have been telling it from the inception.
Right.
Don't write essay type. Because now it has been strictly monitored. Now, when you are typing essay types, there may be a chance of losing marks.
Yeah, here says explain. Explain how to contribute.
Even that we have explained, no?
Yeah.
Now, when you say SME contribute more than 50% to the GDP, is the explanation. That's it.
That's enough, no?
That's enough. Only generally 4 to 5 points are enough to get 5 questions. But if you see that at least if you can write another 1 or 2, like maybe 6 points, that is great for wherever possible.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Udita, Rachini, Chagita, good morning. Okay.
Good morning, sir.
Right. So then move on. Actually, Chagita, we have just discussed the 2019 March question number 1, question number 3, part 1. So you can go through it later. So then we move to the part 2. The part 2 is basically something maybe a bit new to you, but right now we try to learn it, and thereafter it could be a kind of an area that you don't have any issue, right? It basically asks, as per the National Policy Framework for SME Development in Sri Lanka, government has developed a SME policy framework matrix. 6 policy interventions, because actually this was not in the syllabus, but subsequently this was on discussion at the ministry level, right? So that's what I'm telling. Sometimes it is not adequate to go through the theory and the the lessons we learned in the class. We need to do past papers also, because in past papers we see some different inputs coming for the questions, and then this can be repeated. Like this question could be repeated in future. And it could be sometimes in the form of MCQ. They might ask about write 2 policy the items in the SME policy framework, right? For the MCQ 1 and 2, right? So you have to now write maybe out of 6, 2 points. But if you haven't done it somewhere else previously, probably it is clueless for you. So that's what I'm telling. Sometimes it's good that you do as much as possible, the past question papers. Maybe at least you can go down even 4 years, like 2019, 18, 17, 16. That's about it, right? So there may be repetitions also, or maybe similar questions could be asked. Here, answers are enabling environment, technology and innovation, entrepreneurial culture and skill development, access to finance, market facilitation, R&D. When going through the answers, you don't see any difficulty, but the thing is, this has been discussed extensively and been put into the practice under this 6 policy intervention. This is basically from the authorities, government, ministries, department wise, because now what they were trying to do is to promote SME and to bring SME to a greater heights. They have done several areas as initiatives from them, right? So if you take enabling environment is something that cannot be done at say SME level, so they can't do it, or maybe even the bank can't do it. They can support, but somebody at the top has to do this, right? Enable the environment to grow the SME, to support the SME, to bring the authorities awareness, or maybe you have to link it to some other foreign parties like that. So that's the what called enabling environment to flourish SME. That's one. Technology and innovation is very important, because at this level, maybe a technology or innovation may be used at lowest level. Maybe one could be they don't know, they don't have access, right? They don't have financial resources, they don't have sort of skills like that. But if somebody is coming and introduce new technologies to the SME and innovative product services to be introduced, so that is what we discuss on the technology and innovation. Example, now even under the COVID situation also, like most of the SME businesses went into online platform, right? Maybe then for that actually kind of a training, kind of a facilitation, kind of some awareness to be given to SMEs, because it's doable. Even payment gateways like that. So the people would never think about, we can sell through the internet. But right now, most of the individuals, SMEs, entrepreneurs are doing it. That's the usage of technology and innovation being introduced, being facilitated by somebody else at the authority or like decision-making level. Then entrepreneurial culture and skill development. That's very important, right? So because there is some, courses, guidance, right, to promote the entrepreneurship, to develop skills, like, there may be, people, they know what to do kind of some basic level, but they don't know how to go to next level, intermediately and the advanced level. So that could be facilitated through different departments, different courses offered by, NITA and kind of thing. Even ministry can involve, like they can support to the people who are in this sector, not only the entrepreneurs, plus maybe the labor who are involved in. So this is called entrepreneurial culture and skill development. So there may be example that you can have some entrepreneurial national awards, for example. So selecting best entrepreneur at different levels. So which tells you, like, in the government, that promote, the entrepreneurs. So then more and more people would come and, undertake SME type of ventures. Access to finance. Again, very difficult and timely question, where many people don't know, or they are reluctant to go to formal financial institutions and get the money borrowed. Instead, they go to third parties, money lenders, some other means, because they don't know how to do this. Right now, access to finance is very detailed area, but means that you have to have, one thing is there should be a people like institutions who provide financing, and then also you have to have enable the environment, the people to come and borrow that, right? If you say that banks are there, that they are charging very high interest always against securities, and probably entrepreneurs may not come and borrow it, because now again that entrepreneurs to be trained, to be aware, to be educated by way of how to prepare financials, right? So then use kind of the available collaterals to maximum level to get the products. In the other terms, banks also to be asked to develop the products which are not very much dependent on collateral, like cash flow based lending. And in terms the entrepreneurs also could be trained on the cash flow based lending kind of thing. So that's what we call the access to finance. There should be sources, as well as the people should be trained and to be ready to take that advantage. Market facilitation, whatever said and done, whatever you do, but if there is no adequate market, then people are unable to sell it. That is also a part of the authorities like concern. Let's say the very good timely sort of example is, like, let's say that people at maybe a Dambullo, whatever the Nuwara and they are, so people grow vegetables, grow fruits, but there is no ready-made market other than the the centers located there. If somebody like government or that the people can maybe introduce some the direct purchasing from Colombo or maybe other people, so they can get a good price rather than coming through intermediaries, for example, or maybe online purchasing, right? Maybe the Colombo or whatever the buyers can purchase it online and then to deliver sort of thing. I mean, innovative market concepts, right? So like that, then maybe the person, the farming Tambuttegama know exactly, how should I sell my commodity, right? Rather than going through intermediaries like that. So those are some of the things that how you do the market facilitation. R&D is very important, because that may be not easy for entrepreneurs to do R&D and practice what are the good sort of techniques. But if somebody at center, at a higher level, or authorities can do different R&Ds on maybe the products, services, processes, sort of thing, that could be useful. Example, say drip irrigation system to watering the plants could be something R&D example, outcome, right? So then when you say a nanotechnology on fertilizer, something R&D, because the farmer doesn't know anything about nanotechnology. But with the nanotechnology, recently I heard that, you know, the impact is very much higher than you generally utilize the fertilizer kind of thing. Many other developed countries being used that. So here also somebody has to do a bit of R&D and the suitability of the soil to the plant to different things, and then it could be tested in practically like in as a bigger population. So those are some of the things that we need to understand. These are 6 enablers, 6 policy frameworks aimed to promote, grow the SME sector. Enable environment, technology and innovation, entrepreneurial culture and skill development, access to finance, market facilitation, R&D. Right. Any questions on that? Anything that is not clear? Okay, right. So then see whether that you can have answer on this. Challenges faced by the banks in financing SME. Think about bank. When you try to go to finance SME, what are the questions? What are the problems? Right? So take 2-3 minutes among you and, you know, have your answers, and then we discuss. What are those? What are the problems? Think, and then somebody can come up with the answer, so we can discuss it together. Rajini, Chagita. What do you think?
Lack of financial literacy. So.
Yes, lack of financial literacy, very good. Like maybe the SMEs, they don't know much about, say, bookkeeping, double entry kind of thing, cash book, how to prepare P&L balance sheet and cash flow statements, right? So that is, you know, they don't know about it. So that bank expect, you know, the people to come up with, you know, these detail and ready, but they don't have it, or kind of a lack of information on the financial data. Similarly, we can add the Rajini on that non-financial as well. Right, when you talk about, you know, SWOT analysis kind of thing, when you talk about what is your management, market, or sort of thing, probably they don't know, or maybe they are not adequately aware about that. So lack of financial, non-financial information is very critical, because we, going by whatever method, it could be something 6C approach, it could be the other maybe a detailed approach. So we need financial as one of the important pillar, right? But what happens is, if we don't have, if we are not, you know, having that adequately, then we are in trouble. Very good point. Any other? That's about financial side. What are the other areas? What about the management? Who the people, the entrepreneurs who are running the company? Any issues with them? always when you are answering, like think about what are the areas that maybe financial side, maybe management side, maybe marketing.
So the succession plan will comes under management, sir?
That's right. Then the succession plan may not be very much acceptable. Like probably sometimes there's a no succession plan, or the management is, the company is run by not professionals, right? Maybe they try to do it because through ages they know and they try to run it, but so they are not very much professional. So that could be a question for us. Like they might run the business on trial and error basis, right? No strategy is being developed, right? They don't know about strategies and they say, so we have been doing this from ages, so we think this is correct, kind of thing, right? And then as you said, one or two individuals will take all decisions. Could be sometimes it's good, like in terms of quick decision making, but in most times it could be a kind of issue because you don't have any proper directed approach, right? That's number two. That's about the management. First one about financial, second one about management. Any other? You can suggest and you can discuss. What about their markets? Do they have very large market or small market? They have very target market approach, planned approach, or like ad hoc, or is any impact due to market changes? Like if something happens to global or regional market, are they quickly impacted? So what happened? Anything to that extent? What do you think about market? Impact of the changes of the market is high, low, or medium? Something happened to the related markets, are they impact easily or are they not? Prashant, Chagita, what do you think? What is the impact of market? What are the markets they are operating? Are they very sensitive to the market changes?
Okay, very sensitive.
Yeah. So then actually it's issue for us as bankers, right? So if say the clients operating and we are trying to financing being highly impacted due to market changes, probably it's a issue for us. Like maybe target turnovers couldn't be achieved, suddenly cash flows being impacted. So why it is happening? Because they are operating in a smaller markets. Right? They can't being SMEs, they can't go to bigger markets or extensive markets, right? So the operating scales also low. Something happened in the world market, something happened in the regional or in national markets, highly impacted. Now let's say example, the previous example, let's say they are into vegetable supply. If something like suddenly happened in the lockdown, so they can't do anything, or maybe kind of a drought or sort of weather patterns, kind of a highly impacted, because they are too much dependent, because they are small players, right? So they can't take a kind of bigger call. Sometimes they can't keep their harvest for about a long time, no freezes kind of thing, right? If nobody is buying their harvest within a day, then it could go out of the market. So bigger impacts, right? Then what about the let's say R&D, technology, and those things? What are the, like are they in line with technology? Are they outdated? Are they sort of up to date with the technology changes? Are they willing to, or are they with promoting their products with R&D? What do you think? Or are they not?
They are not so familiar with the.
They are not so familiar. Great. That's the issue we have just talked about earlier also. They are not very much into the R&D. They are not very much into the updated technology because there are own reasons. They say, no, so we are happy with what we have. We don't want to go to the next level. We don't have adequate money, resources, so many, what do you call justifications. But issue is, with all those things, bankers are unable to, correctly judge their operations. When you say that if you want to finance, and if you think that what they are doing is outdated technology, outdated processes, probably they might be impacted in future. Or they are not into R&D and then they are using old traditional technologies. Possibly they can't take maximum output from the production or the exercise they do, which could be easily impacted with, let's say, the importation of something, right? Because now, let's say they also produce something and maybe a country is also been getting it through imports, right? Then the quality of the imports are very much high because they are in the current technology and up-to-date technology processes. So then obviously our guys cannot be competed with that technology issues. So those are some of the issues basically in terms of bank is facing when we try to finance SMEs, right? So because we talk about market, we talk about management, we talk about other environmental factors, we talk about financial side, right? So we have some inherited issues in these pillars, because why we are looking those things is we as bankers, we try to evaluate the client through this viability, through this feasibilities. That's about financial feasibility, marketing, management feasibility, environmental, remember? So legal, technical, there are so many feasibilities you spoke about now. So each and every area, you might find out some issues. So that is the challenge you need to come up, right? When you answer in this type of a question, that what I have just suggestion is, there are points that we can just, elaborate and, go through. But better than that is, you need to think about what is the model, right? So these are the areas that I should focus. If the question comes again, then like financial side, marketing side, management side, R&D or whatever other areas, or maybe environmental side, or legal, for example, or technical, or maybe environmental. There are areas that we think about the feasibilities. So each area you can find one or two. Let's say about legal, what example? So legally, most of these companies could be, let's say, found without a proper incorporation, right? They just have a sole proprietor under personal name or partnership without agreement. That's the issue for us. But when you come to the higher level companies, they have formal legal structure incorporated under Companies Act, vision, mission, and director responsibility. Everything is there. So we are happy. So easily, negotiable and transactions can be performed without any problem, the legal capacity. But in SME, it is not. In terms of environmental factors, do they have any environmental issues? Yes, probably they have not following up with the environmental regulation. They have not got proper approvals. Some have not been renewed as expected. There may be some other areas also. So like that, the easiest method is think as a structure. So if we are trying to financing a project or SME, we try to evaluate several areas. That's, the financial, marketing, management, like that, the feasibility. And then the challenges also within that. So what are the challenges under each? Probably you will be able to find one or two under each. So then it is easy for us to answer the question, right? Rather than, memorizing it. But when you see answers, yeah, this is some of the answers that you can think about. Financial and financial, proper governance structure that we discuss about, the dependence or the succession. Management is not given under financial, that's again succession something. Then market is narrow, highly sensitive to the market volatilities. Availability of cheap products imported, that's, what we talk about, whether quality or not. There are cheap products available in the market. then our guys cannot be competed easily because we are, doing it with less resources, not in line with R&D, not in line with innovation. So then it's very difficult to compete. I mean, R&D orientation, outdated technology, informal market site hiring. That's another very good point, because sometimes you can find, these people may have taken loans from money lenders. So then they come to you, and then sometimes they might tell, sometimes they might not tell also. So what could happen is, when they have taken loans outside, it could be at very high rates. Anyway, they need to service that. No, how they are going to service? Through the income generated from the business. So which have anyway, it's a bit difficult task, because you need to service anyway. Otherwise, your property could be auction kind of thing, because that's how they operate, right? So that's another question as bankers we are facing when clients have taken loans from the third parties, right? Any questions? Anything that we need to focus more on that? Then this is the last part, where sources of financing for SMEs, right? So this is very, again, easy question, but since we are doing it right now, so think about what are the sources. Let's say if you are a SME, if you are a businessman, where can you get funding, right? The first place is where? First place is you might have save something, right? Own capital, retain earnings. Because let's say you are doing a business, and then you want to start a business. You have obviously some money saved, right? So you can use it as a initial capital. That's one. Then you can easily go to the bank or finance company, and you can ask some money as a loans and advance. That's a second one. Then not the third one, fourth one is leasing finance company, because if you want to leasing hire purchase kind of thing, you can go to leasing company and finance company and get the the financing done. Then supplier credit. What's a supplier credit is basically you have in a firm, you have the buyers and suppliers, right? So the supplier also give goods, and in terms you are paying them, but you can negotiate with the suppliers, and probably you can have extended supplier payments. That again sometimes useful depending on what type of business you are in, because rather than you get bank financing and settling supplier, you can maybe get extended another 10-15 days to pay suppliers, and in terms that money can be used for the working capital. Then financial support from friends or relatives. That's another method of getting money to some extent. It depends on how what are the terms, but generally sometimes some people, especially SMEs, have got there are chances of getting money from the friends, relatives, and all that. Then angel, if you remember, venture capital, we learned under section 2. There's another sources. Maybe it is coming at a cost. It's coming at a higher price compared to bank and microfinancing and finance companies. But that's another source. Yeah, you can go to the business angels, go to the venture capital companies, and then you can get the money and you can do some financing requirements. Informal financial markets, though that we are not encouraging this, but it's another source of financing for a business. So these are generally sources of financing, right? If you remember in our section 2 that we talk about internal, external, what's external, equity, debt. So we have spoken about a greater extent. So here he is asking what are the sources of financing. So maybe the next question is, he might ask us to write a short note on a different type of financial product, maybe term loan, maybe stock, the shares, or maybe a short-term working capital loan, or maybe bank guarantee kind of thing. Maybe write a short note on type of financing. That could be a question. So when you are studying this, also have an eye on like these are the possible questions that come to us, right? These are the 4 areas that I want to discuss under the first question. 2019 March. Yeah.
Can you please explain venture capital and angel funds, because I have not been into this.
Right. The thing is that that's in the section 2 in detail. I just elaborate. In angel financing, what happened is not very much popular in Sri Lanka, right? What could happen here is that, let's say if you want to start your business, you can go to a people called this angel financing. So they provide financing up to, let's say, a smaller amounts, and instead of banks, they take high risk. That's what they do, right? And let's say there are a couple of people got together. There is a fund called Angel Fund. Through that, you can get money, right? If, let's say, if the business is a bit of risky, bank at the initial stage, the bank would not finance into you. Then this angel financing, what they do is they will, intervene. They will, come to your business and give some financing, but they are not very big ticket size. Maybe in Sri Lankan context, maybe 200, 300, 400,000 type of financing. But it's good that if you getting the money, different source. But the problem here is it had maybe a higher rate. When venture capital is a bit of bigger, and they do higher financing, and they take over the management of the company, and they run it for you about 2 to 3 years, and after 3-4 years they hand over the business to you, and after taking their profits, right? So in both cases, what happened is this is not a traditional way of banking through bank or financial companies. They basically go to a different areas. They have different expertise. The main difference is at venture capital or the angel financing, they take higher risk, right? For example, in terms of venture capital, they even come to 90% of the financing requirement, where you provide only 10%. But in a bank, it is not so. You need to provide at least 40-50% to minimize the risk, because these are very risky. In the same time, they are very profitable also. The higher return also could be expected. There are chances also the business could collapse at the initial stage, but the venture capital take that risk. Those are the venture capital. These are like in Sri Lanka also, we have 1 or 2 venture capital companies, but they focus higher risk businesses, risky ventures with a higher investment, with the view of getting the profit in 2-3 years. After that, they hand over the business to you, and they will move out. Rachini, we have very detailed answers sort of thing in the section 2 in our presentation. I hope that you have collected the...
Yes, I collected, but even though I go through, I didn't recollect this. With this, I can manage it.
Right,
yes.
But there are some couple of past paper questions to that extent also. That's what I was telling sometimes. Now, in some past papers, I have seen that, write a short note on venture capital, short note on share capital, maybe term loan, like who are the, like, the players in the market, like, so you can find, I mean, we'll see whether we have, I think I'm not exactly sure whether I have selected a question here. If not, that these are also that you need to be familiar with, because these are very regular and repeated questions. Any other questions? Okay. See whether that these are another question that has been put to us, right? It says, how to identify an SME business as per the guidelines issued by the CBSL? Why SMEs are important in national economy? Kind of a repeat of the question that previously, or in 2017 they have asked it, and 2019 they have asked it. Key constraint to the growth and competitiveness of SMEs in Sri Lanka. What are the challenges faced by the SMEs in Sri Lanka? why SMEs are important to financial institutions. Earlier it was something SME is important to national economy. Question 2, SME is important to financial institutions. Right? Take 5 minutes among you and see whether you can have some answers, some thought process. Then we will discuss in detail. This is the one. Entrepreneurs with annual turnover not exceeding 300 and the turnover is 750. So that's like, you know, the answer that we need to give, but it's not difficult, but you know, you have to remember it at the type of you know, the so the examiner gives us the detail, right? Let's say we go to the second one. That is again asking about why SMEs are important. SMEs are important. Any thoughts?
GDP contribution.
Right.
By giving employment, it gives poverty elevation.
Poverty elevation, regional development, the same thing that we have discussed, but see what we have differently there. Here. This is like more or less what we have discussed, but social economy, poverty elevation, industrialization, input larger production we discussed, foreign exchange, right? So those are some of the things that we can use. Like here also that we can take some inputs on the first one, and then this question also we have something, and together we can use it, right? So any questions? Since that earlier also we have learned something, a similar thing could be adopted here also, right? Okay. Then these are something, the third one, the key constraints to growth and competitiveness of, you know, the SMEs. Just go through it and see whether you get it, and before discussion. So we'll go one by one. Poor infrastructure, right? Because these are basically, this is in terms of SMEs, right? And SMEs will see, whether to, easy or difficult to deal with the businesses. So that's what generally it is asked question, right? And then when you say poor infrastructure, again, that is maybe not be part of their responsibility, but they have to deal with, because of, they don't have motorable roads to, the whatever harbor, airports closer by, and port electricity kind of thing. So if you don't have those things, probably you might have some issues in facing, being competitive, right? Okay. And then the other one could be price and yield risk. What is that? What is the other one? Price and yield risk is something where you see that maybe depending on the, the imports, depending on the other externalities, they might have an issue in pricing the margins that they are getting, because they are unable to, set a price in the market. So they are like price takers kind of thing, right? Then collateral limitations, because almost all the time they don't have adequate collateral, right? So then they can't, go to the market and get whatever their requirements. And maybe banks is insisting on collateral requirements, and probably they don't have it. Then they don't have a proper, or maybe the sort of regular repayment performance pattern, right? Then technology adoption also not very much, clear, or maybe they are not willing to take, right? So then that's an issue, because if everybody in like global perspective, so they are they are basically moving with the technology. So probably they don't have a way out if you are not into the proper technology method. Then geographic dispersion, because not like many big companies, the SMEs are located in various areas in a country, right? So it's very difficult. So you can get something done, because depending on the externalities, depending on the geographical issues, they have to face it, and based on that only they are in a position to compete. Like example, now in a vegetable, for example, like they locate different areas, different factors are affecting their business model. Like these are some of the the things that SMEs itself inherently they are facing. Because of this, in addition to the problems we mentioned earlier, the SME also have some issues, but in addition to that, these people have some issues basically of these external factors, right? Because some are their control, some are not within the controls, within their control, but still they have some issues on that. The last one. This is basically a bit of the same question they have asking differently. Earlier they asked about, SME is important to institutions. The SME is important to, they talk about general economy. Here they are asking about financial institutions. Now think about bank. So you have retail customers, you have SME customers, you have corporate customers. So when you have SME customers, what are the benefits you have? The first one is like CASA base, right? Because since you have many SMEs in your portfolio, you do have a lot of what do you call businesses, loans, advances. In the same time, so the cash flows is coming to you. So basically, current accounts and savings accounts are very much important. So they basically that you can bring those things in, and you can have more CASA base through the SMEs. Then portfolio risk diversify. Rather than everything put into maybe retail or the corporate, you can have SME clients in your portfolio so that you can get one more portfolio concentration manage. Then you can use the refinancing loan schemes, because the refinancing loan schemes are dedicated to SMEs sometimes. By using that, what you could do is you can offer the refinancing schemes to the SME client and get more other businesses also. Because it's something that when you offer refinancing lines to the clients, they come to you because at a lower interest rates. So with that, you can onboard SME customer, and then you can have more other businesses also, right? So any questions on those areas? Any right. Then what you could do is, right, this is the question that actually I have mentioned you, right? So take a couple of minutes and see whether you can have some answers, because at least we are not going to go into detail on this, but we can just go through the answer. This is the kind of question that probably we might get, and see whether that you are in a position to attempt this. So let's discuss on this. There are a wide variety of funding sources available for projects, although the options available depends on the nature of the business. Discuss the following sources of funds in brief. So as I was telling you in the question, so examiner would ask us, what are the available sources for the projects, and then maybe the nature of the business, right? Then what you could do is, like if you go by the suggested answers also, that there are so many points set under each, so you can at least write 4 or 5 lines to cover each. Maybe venture capital, debenture, share capital, bank loans, and advances, like that, right? So let's see how you could right. This is like venture capital. I just go through here. Venture capital is a type of private equity, a form of financing that is provided by firms or funds to small, early stage, emerging firms that are deemed to have high growth potential or which have demonstrated high growth. Like here, because in a venture capital, what they do is, like as I was telling you, some form of the people they got together, right, and then they form a kind of a sort of a venture capital fund, and they try to go after the businesses which need financing, which basically are maybe high risk but high return, and also they see their higher potential on these small firms for the new business opportunities, where banks or the other traditional organizations which are not coming and operating these things. So that's how generally the venture capital the firms are. Here the thing is, like if the benefit of the venture capital is, though the ownership being transferred to the venture capital to some period, The advantage for the entrepreneur is because no other entity is coming and supporting you. But here, it's different. Venture capital companies come and support you. So that's what the main difference between the banks and the venture capital companies. When somebody then could ask a question, why the venture capital will take that type of a risk? Because now what happened is, now in venture capital, they select different businesses in different sectors. They are not, coming all investment in, let's say, in a one area. For example, it could be something like what do you call, let's say IT sector, for example. Now they are not putting everything in the IT sector. So they have some projects in IT sector, manufacturing sector, so like mining. So they have, though they are very risky, they are, going to select different businesses in different sectors. So that's how they managing. But advantage is, they offer, the investment funds to a company where you don't have adequate money to start the business. And then traditionally financial banks and all other things, if they are unable to, support you, but they will do it for you, right? And the debentures also, that, I mean, you can read through, where this is basically a debt instrument where a company can issue a debenture to investors to get the money. Like if you take a company like, say, John Keells, for example, and what they can do is they can, one thing is they can go to a bank and take a term loan, short-term loan. That is one. Number two is they can issue shares. That's the next one, through share market and get the money. Another one is they can issue debentures by their own to the investors. The investors can, purchase debentures by giving money. So there are several variations of the debentures that you can read through here. Maybe the interest could be paid at maturity, or maybe biannual. So maybe convertible debentures like that. So many options are there. But this is again a good instrument that you can go to investors and get the money. And the share capital is another sort of a form where, in terms of people who, like the company who are very established, they can go to share market, right? So you can issue shares. There are several shares that they can issue. They can issue general, what you call ordinary share capital, preference share capital, and then they can script different types of shares, right? Anyway, whatever said and done, they can go to the market and get the money. This is another form of financing. Finally, you can have bank loans and advances, which are very common. So then again, you can go to a bank and get some financing. That's we call bank loans and advances. So those are the basically the sort of areas that we might come for exams, right? I'm not going to go into very detail because the limitation of time that you can read through, and because sometimes this again could be repeated to greater extent, right? I think right. We'll have some time on this here. This is the part 2 actually, right? Where first one is SME banking and sources of financing and those things. I think every time we are getting a kind of a question on those. This is a part 2 where credit evaluation, right? That is something again relevant to SME, right? See whether that you can have some idea on this. 2018 March, read through the question and see whether how probable this question before we move to the last one. Yeah, first 3. In that 4th one, remember we have done it, but see whether that you have some answers on this. Right. We'll see it. Number of conventional credit-related products available in banks and other financial lending institutions to cater their customers, including SMEs. These lending-related products are offered after evaluating the creditworthiness of the client. So briefly state 5 C's of credit to evaluate the customer. Briefly explain each of the following of lending. Give an example of financial product relevant to each lending method. Actually, I have missed it here, the part of the question. When we go to the answers, I will show it to you. Briefly explain with examples the main characteristics and purpose for which each of the following financial products would be offered to clients, right? So that's part. Then the last part is a kind of some questions on working capital cycle. So let's see the probable answers. I think this is not a difficult one. Right. These are the 6 C's or the 5 C's that we have been, we are aware with. I don't see any issue on this. Just check that whether you have a difficulty. Capacity, collateral, capital, conditions, and character. These are the 5 C's. Generally we do, but we learned it under 6 C's, but here it is coming under 5 C's, that is capacity, collateral, capital, conditions, and character. If you remember correct, capacity we have learned under capability of the capacity and cash flow, but here it has taken as 1, but it won't be an issue, because if they ask about 5 C's, that you have to answer it in this way. It's a 6 C's, then it could be capacity, cash flow, collateral, capital, condition, character, in that way, right? So capacity, basically the ability of the firm to repay the loan. So it basically looks into the qualitative capacity and quantitative capacity as both. When you say capacity and cash flow, there are 2 different things. Then capacity is something more or less like management capacity, legal capacity, marketing capacity, like that, to run the firm. But in terms of cash flow, it basically looked into debt equity ratio, interest cover ratio, debt service cover ratio, those, right? So that's about the capacity. Collateral is basically speaks about where the forms of the security the firm can provide to its bank or other lender. It represents an asset the borrower pledge an alternative secondary source, because how well the promoter can produce or gives us the collateral, a security to support the credit. That's what when you talk about the collateral, right? So then it again will tell you the commitment, the obligation from the client towards the facility, again speaks about. Third one, the net worth, the capital that the owner can introduce the business, right? That capacity, collateral, the capital. Fourth one, condition. This is not only the loans related condition, and external conditions also come into this picture, right? Maybe external, something about environmental and marketing related conditions will come here. And then the internal is something about loan related conditions also coming here. Fifth one is the character, which is open subject to judgment made by the bank about the prospective client. So something that is where it is basically about, you know, the behavior features of the particular individual. That's about creditworthiness, right? Those things will come here. So the capacity, collateral, capital, conditions, and character are the 5 C's that we are, you know, talking about in terms of what do you call credit evaluation. I don't see any difficulty here, but what you could expect is sometimes they would ask about 5 C's or 6 C's. If it's a 6 C, it should be capacity and cash flow. And what I have seen is same thing could be included in the MCQs also. They might ask about what are the type, write 2 C's under 6 C's. Maybe then you can easily write it, or maybe give a brief description of 2 C's, right? Could be something, an MCQ question in terms of 6 C's. Any difficulty here? Anything that you want further clarification? Okay. Let's say we move to the next one. This is actually which is missing there. They have asked about a couple of lending methodologies. If you remember, we have security based, cash flow based, project based, fee based. We have learned 4, right? Security based or the asset base is something where predominantly your advance is based on the security, like cashback loan, owning, to some extent leasing. That is, you predominantly looked into the security, collateral. That's one. The number 2, cash flow base is something where you are looking mainly on the cash flows, like working capital financing. So as security is secondary. It's good to have security, but we prefer the client is, you know, providing us more cash flow based type of solutions, like maybe factoring, maybe check discounting, maybe short-term revolving import loans are cash flow based, you know, propositions where you have mainly cash flows available to support your repayment. And then those 2 actually we have they have asked here. I just, you know, give 2 other examples, right, just to, you know, keep a bit of revision on that. Now we do have another 2 that is called fee base and the project base. Fee base is basically there is a no cash out, but you offer some facilities to the client, right? Facility to the client, and then based on the facility you earn some fee, like bank guarantee, maybe sort of what do you call shipping guarantee, performance bonds, like that. So you offer so much on non-cashback, right? That's so off-balance sheet financing. There we call fee base. You are only getting a fee and no interest income. The 4th one is the project-based financing. If you remember correct, they are again a bit of cash flow-based lending, but it's a futuristic, right? It's a futuristic lending where you try to, you know, service the debt based on future cash flows. Now that's what we generally learn about feasibilities. It's all about future, about the feasibility. Based on the viability or the feasibility of the project, we try to finance it. So there are 4 methods of lending: asset back or the security based lending, cash flow based lending, project based lending, and the fee based lending. Here they have asked about 2 things, that is cash flow based lending and the asset back lending. And then anytime they also could ask about the others as well, right? Any questions on that? this is about the product descriptions. I'm not very much going into these. You can read through. Maybe we generally we need to write at least learn about 10-12 products, and then since we have done it in the section 2, go through and have at least 3-4 lines for each product, and be aware, because we may need those things for the exams, right? So this is the kind of a question that I want to discuss with you. I'm not sure whether we have done it, but take some minutes with you and see whether before we discuss in detail. Here we have been asked to compute, because we have given turnover, cost of goods sales, and all those things, stock turnover period, debtors turnover period, and the creditors turnover period. So basically, I think the question is inventory, receivable, payable, operating cycle, cash conversion cycle. So we need to compute that. So see whether you can give a try on this. We can discuss it, but for 2017, right? For 2017, we are supposed to compute inventory, receivable, payable, operating cycle, and cash conversion cycle. So take 2-3 minutes and see whether you can do that before we discuss in. If you do have any questions, you can raise, but we have done it in the class. But understanding, we try it right now. For 2017, we need to compute inventory, receivable, payable, operating cycle, and cash conversion cycle. Start now. (2017) Anybody? Chagita? Achini? What's the equation? Chavit was telling 75. What about others? 72, right? So possibly you are getting the answers. We'll check. I don't know. It's not easy. I don't think it's a difficult one, right? Let's see. Right. This is how basically it has to. Let's say calculate the following based on the information given above. Inventory conversion. So since that this is 2 years, 2016 and 2017, now we try to use the average, right? If not, we need not to have averaging. That's 2016 computation, 2017 computation. That's what we can do. When you try to use the averaging, right, 2016 and 2017, what you need to do is you have to basically take, let's say, 2017 and go to the average stock. That's about 2016 stocks and 2017 stocks here, right? You say 475, 525 and divided by 2 into cost of goods sold with respect to 2017, right? So that's how generally we need to do, right? Then average stock divided by cost of goods sold into 365 will give you the answer, right? Then go to the receivable. Remember, we take average debtors but turnover. Instead of cost of sales, it uses turnover. Payable, it's again average creditors, cost of goods sold. If you are able to compute these three, then you don't have to worry about the rest. The operating cycle is basically inventory conversion plus receivable conversion. Then cash cycle is inventory plus receivable minus payable, right? And that's how the answer comes. Now here, now you might think about this is like, very lengthy computation, but, since that we have been, doing this for about a reasonable period, right? And then we basically, assume that, we are very much comfortable in the computations. So that's why, he has, basically given it to in a 5 marks question, right? Remember 2 years, 2016 and 2017. Then when you have given 2 years, what you have to do is you need to basically do a kind of averaging for the particular year. That's number one. And if you don't have a computation relevant to particular year, then you need not to use the averaging. But better when you are attempting the question, just put the assumption saying I have used averaging for this computation. That's great. In any case, that we don't have any problem from the marking. That's the one. Number two, you think about the stock turnover. That is basically the average stock divided by cost of goods sold. The receivable conversion, basically average debtors about the turnover. Payable conversion is average creditors divided by the cost of goods sold. So those are the the variations that you have to remember. Finally, the operating cycle is basically inventory conversion plus the receivable conversion. Together you will get that answer. Then cash conversion is basically something that you get is where operating cycle minus the payable conversion period. So then you will have that answer. Any difficulty come across here? Any problems? Rachini, Chagita, actually we have done it. Any problems come across? Samindri, anything? Right. I don't think in a kind of, these are difficult, but just remember now, sometimes this has been come for in case the part 2, but this could be tested in the part 1 also, right? Because he might give some figures and we have been supposed to compute this in the part 1, not all, maybe stock turnover period or receivable conversion period or something. They could check us on that, right? So remember, so that possibility also, and so based on that, so we need to do that computation as well, right? So any questions? If we are comparing 2 years, yes, Samindri, if we are like try to do 2016 computation and 2017, no need to take the average. Here they are specifically asking the 2017 figures, hence that we have used the averaging. $2,000 figures only, then we don't have any chance. So we have to go with the 2016, because then we can't go the averaging with the 2017. Ideally, they are not asking about 2016, because then they give 2016 and 2017. They probably answer 2017. Then we take 16, 17 averaging and do the computation. Otherwise, they will ask 2016 and 2017 separately. Any other questions? Okay, let's right. So what we'll do is like since that we don't have much time today, so we'll continue what we have stopped from the today, and then we'll continue accordingly. So what I am telling you is like, you know, start as much as possible, you know, questions, and do whenever you have free time. And if you do have anything, please let me know, so that you can, you know, maybe next 3 days we are here, and even after that I'll share my numbers that you can, you know, do the questions as and when you have any problem, right? So having said that, plan to, you know, wind up for today a bit early, maybe 2-3 minutes earlier. So have any good week, and you know, safe week as well. So we'll meet next week around 8 o'clock. So we'll continue what we have stopped. So thank you very much for today's participation.